It's a misty old morning in the woods today. I've come out about 7 o'clock just for a bit of an escape and a talk to the trees, and you can see the elderflowers are really well in bloom now. And this wet weather has also meant that it's a really good time to look for wood ears on the trunks of the elder. The elder's quite late this year. This time last year it was pretty much over, but at the moment, oh, that's absolutely perfect for elderflower wine and champagne and sorbets and cordials and nice things like that. And oh look, nettles. Very, very soon, my nettly friends, I'll be picking you. Now, not every elder tree is going to have them, but where you find one, you tend to find lots and lots and lots of them. Now, I've put the Latin name of this fungus up on the screen, and a lot of you will probably know that its name translates into something that, well, these days pretty much perpetuates inaccurate racial stereotypes. So there are alternative names. Most foragers know this as wood ear or jelly ear, and that's what I'm quite happy calling it. Oh, that was lovely. Really is a bit of a fairy wood along here. Just got to keep your eyes bottled. There's some more. See what state these ones are in. Those ones again, full sun a little bit later, we'll have just one or two of those. Here's a fairly classic fresh specimen. Look at that nice tender surface, much lighter brown on the back than the slightly dehydrated ones, and it really does curl up at the edges like a little ear. I promise they don't taste like ears. They've actually got a very neutral flavour. They absorb the tastes of anything that you cook them with, which is why they're so lovely in things like soups and stews. They add a really interesting texture, but there's no strong mushroomy flavour, which I know occasionally puts some people off. The other good thing about these is you're really not likely to mistake them for anything else. There are a couple of ground growing funguses which I think are called pizzazza, but I'll double check that and I'll put a little note on the screen here. They tend to grow on the ground facing up. These ones grow on trees, and if you find one of these and it's also on an elder tree, well, there really isn't anything else that it's going to be other than, wood ear or jelly. I really am butterfingers this morning. You can usually tell if they're starting to go over because they'll go sort of quite leathery rather than being quite tender and bendy. They start feeling a little bit dried out. Now, actually, these probably are still pickable if I want to go straight for dried. And drying is quite a good way to preserve these. So I will have a few of these, but these ones have definitely shriveled up in the sun a little bit. And the slightly shriveled bits like this, I'll take them home, put them out on kitchen towel. You can already see how dark they are. They're going to go almost completely black in just a day or two in a airy, shady place, and then they'll store in a jar really, really well, and you just rehydrate them by soaking before use. So just a tiny handful of those, but that's still a very useful addition to my pantry. These ones are lovely and fresh, so now look how nice and bendy those are. So they've got a slightly paler top surface, and the inner surface really does look like an ear, nice and pliable. Now I normally cut this off with a knife, but let's just pop one off and have a really nice look at it. So that's great. That's exactly what I want to harvest today, and those will either dry or I'll probably use them fresh in soups and stir fries. The weather can make the most immense difference to this sort of fungus. First thing this morning when I started the video, we'd had mist and there was a lot of rain yesterday, and all the ones I picked then were beautifully tender. This is a little bit later in the day now. I've come back out to finish this video up, and certainly some of these really are a little bit more leathery, so that's fine. We're not overpicking anyway. I'll show you my fresh bits in a second, but there's only going to be a little handful of ones to dry as well as rehydrating them for savoury things. I have heard of people rehydrating these in alcohol, so they sort of puff up and go jelly-like, and then you dip them in chocolate, and they're supposed to taste a little bit like those Jaffa cakes. But I haven't tried that one yet. I might. You never know. Those of you that have been following me, waiting anxiously to see if the nettles are ready, well, look at the height of those. Those ones, I reckon, are 8 foot tall yet, and they're still not quite ready. Another couple of weeks, we are getting there. But there's so much else out in the woods at the moment that it really doesn't matter. I don't drop my phone. They really do look like ears. Now, this is all I'm going to pick. I don't need very many, just a handful. And I'm going to be using these in Oriental style soups and, you know, noodle stir fries, that type of thing, where they're going to be absolutely delicious. Some of this burdock's looking ready as well. Look, you see how the centre stalk is starting to shoot up. So if I cut it here and here, take off the outer leaves, peel it. So that's the basic stalk chopped out. Now, that round bit in the middle, that sort of centre white bullseye, that's the bit that you eat. So I'll peel that off, and that, chopped up finely, is a very passable substitution for bamboo shoots, and that's going to go perfectly in my Oriental soup with wood ears. Bonus. Well, the mist's all burnt away now. It was my second little walk of the day. Started off very early. It's a couple of hours later now. And I think it's time that I get these goodies home and get those dried ones properly dehydrated for storage. And it's time for a cup of tea. But I'm going to really, really enjoy my walk through the woods as I go. It's always a treat to be out at this time of year. Always know I'm nearly home when I pass this particular footpath sign, and that sky is glorious. The mist's totally burnt off now. Home now, and as well as the handful I showed you in the woods that I was going to use fresh, these are the ones I'm going to dry. Now, I've given them a very light wash and I've gone over them quite carefully. So, for example, this one, that slightly green tone, I needed to decide whether that was sort of moss type things from the tree or just the natural colouring. I think that's absolutely fine. And I've checked them very carefully for small creepy crawlies who would much rather not be dried to go into my dinner. And I've patted them dry, and I'm just going to spread them all out on a cloth, and they're going to dry really relatively fast at this time of year. So a few hours later, and these are very nearly done. These huge ones, they're not quite there yet. You can see how much darker they are around the edges as they start to dehydrate. But the ones that really are there, should find that, yeah, when they're properly dry, they'll just break apart. And at that stage, they'll store really happily in a jar for quite a long time, and they just need soaking before use. So wood ears are an excellent beginner's mushroom to forage. There's a couple of things to cross-reference, but there's really nothing worrying that you could mistake for them. They're really useful, they're tasty in a not too dramatic sort of way, and they keep well. Golden rule, of course, always be totally sure you've identified things properly. If in doubt, don't eat it. Do be prepared to cross-reference. But this is a great one to start off with if you're new to mushroom foraging. Happy hedge bothering.